like the Panthers, but remember I said I'm more of a player person, so I fall in love with a player's style of play, and if it just match my personality and match how I like people to play, I like that person. And
Who's your
with the
fave right
Panthers,
now?
Cam Newton, I like Cam Newton. I
Yeah.
like
Can I ask you something
I
about Cam
like
Newton? Do you
yeah. Go
think
ahead.
Cam Newton is one of like the most, I would say, under appreciated players in the league?
Probably not the most, but he's in the
I
conversation because
I think
they
he is.
they look at him in the shadows of other great quarterbacks, and they look at him as just a passer. And him as a football player is great. Him as a quarterback is barely above average.
Yeah, just a bit
Cam
above
Newton
average.
Yeah.
barely above average. Okay, I could see that because I'm just saying like when I watch Cam Newton play, like I don't know, there's just I think he just gets like this I don't know, maybe the stigma attached to him because of the mobile quarterback thing where he can run around and do all that maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he's just I don't know, I think he's a really great quarterback, and I don't think he gets all because I think the Carolina Panthers have kind of in a way wasted his career in a sense because they get him to like they've gotten the playoffs so many times, and then and they haven't won a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? It's like crazy. They've been there like what, like 5, 6 times now.
Well, I'm gonna
Maybe
be honest
more.
with you. The Super Bowl they lost to the Broncos, I count that as a win. I mean, they played against the NFL and the Broncos. It was like a collective effort to
Oh
get
really? Because they
Peyton
were
Manning
like the
his.
winningest team. I remember that game and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, I mean,
But
yeah.
He's
I
That's
saying
think
that.
it
Peyton
is
Manning.
crazy because a lot of people thought that team like because they never met, and they were saying like Denver was like the because I mean the Panthers were just scoring touchdowns like crazy. I remember the game before the Super Bowl. The Panthers were just they rolled over whatever team it was they had to get to the Super Bowl. They just rolled right over top of them, I think. And when I remember seeing that game, I was just kind of thinking in my head, like, okay, so we have like the unstoppable force versus the immovable object, and I was like, I kind of thought just because of how the Panthers were playing all year that we were going to get the unstoppable force was going to beat and move the immovable object. I thought that's what
Mm,
we were going to get in that Super Bowl, but that's clearly not the case. They kind of
no, that's not what we got at all. We got a very controlled game, and it was controlled by officiate.
I
officiating.
say deep. I
Oh,
say the Denver defense was pretty part of that equation
yeah.
themselves. They was the tough defense to play against. If you couldn't throw out of that, if you couldn't throw them out of their base defense and their scheme, if you couldn't throw out of that, and Cam just isn't. He's not a throwing quarterback. He can throw the ball. He can. It's just he's not a quarterback that can throw a defense out of there. You got to control it with the run and the scheme that they had, and it just the Broncos matched up. I don't know. I mean, could it be like? I just don't know how you fix a football game. Can you get the referees to do it? Yes, I guess, but there's just too many moving parts to fix a whole football team unless you go in there and say, here's $2 million to every player and coaching and all the
No,
moving
no, no,
parts.
no, just read Donahue book, and he'll show you exactly how you fix it. So it's all right. So it's only a couple of calls that has to go a certain way to change a football game. Like they say, football is a game of inches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if inches can decide a game, one call can decide a game. So and these officials are not handpicked for Super Bowls for no reason. They're geniuses at what they do. And when you see the NFL with replacement refs, it was totally different. So orchestrating and controlling the game is an art, and the ones who do it the best are paid the most, and they get the biggest games, right? So it's an art to it, right? So when you see like basketball players or football players, and the game is getting kind of mucky and dirty, the officiator, it's their job to bring that game back in. So what they do, they change the way they're calling the game. They start calling it more tight, and that affects the flow of the game. It affects which team is getting the advantage and all of that stuff. So the analytics and all this stuff shows which team is affected the most by a tightly called game or a loosely called game.
What about a playoff game where like a team gets totally torched? Like they're like that was like the ratings, the like I'm saying like if they're trying to sway it in a certain way, so the ratings. Like what about a game where it's just a complete barn buster and the only people that are going to enjoy it are the people that are fans of that team, as their other team just gets murdered.
You can't 100% control any game. Like I said, it's a art to it. You can try to get a outcome, but it's
It's
not
not always
necessary.
gonna happen.
Right,
Oh,
and
okay.
they're not officiating for outcome in most cases. They're officiating for a entertaining game.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
I believe in that because, like I tell, like all my players, even at the smaller levels, you can get officials that get a bug up their ass for you, and there could be some betting going on that the officials are even in, even at the development level. It's crazy, yeah, as it sounds, but it happens. Um, I always tell my players, like, listen, we're gonna go out from jump and just ram the ball down. We're gonna you don't let the refs control the game. We're gonna make it so obvious if they're doing that, and it's happened before, where I had a commissioner stop the game and get on and get the ref out of there, change the ref out because it was so blatantly bad because we just went out there and ran the ball and down their faces and just attacked the ball, just played out of our minds. And I always tell our kids, don't come to me complaining about the refs. I'll handle the refs. Just play ball and play up to the level where it's so obvious, and then I'll handle it from there.
And
But
you're 100% correct.
and I think I didn't read the book, but I know who you're talking about that said that games could be fixed. That he wrote something, a formula or something on how it was
Mm-hmm.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He actually got a YouTube channel that he used to during the Miami Heat games when LeBron was there. He would come on after the games and give like a 5 or 10 minute clip of how he know which referee was going which way, and he'll grab plays and show you when the referee was favoring a certain team.
that's
You know,
cool.
it's kind of phenomenal.
Hey, one more question about Cam though, because I wanted to get to that before we moved on from that. Do you think Cam is going to end up like Andrew Luck
Beat up and retire early.
early? Yeah,
Um, no, I
Open
think
ended. Oh,
no, I think what's going to happen with Cam is one or two things. Either North Turner can actually get in his head and kind of change him a little bit, and remember when Randall Cunningham used to take out running a lot, and
yeah.
then toward the end where he was with the Vikings and he was throwing bombs to Randy Moss and Chris Carter. You got
Mm.
to see like, oh man, this is a good Randall Cunningham. I wish we could have seen this 5 years before.
With the
You,
Eagles,
you know,
yeah.
so I think Cam can still utilize his big arm. North Turner got to hone his running down and let him utilize McCaffrey and the fast guys they put around him. So I think he could be that, right? Or he continue to try to be Superman and continue running, and they find a replacement for him. And I think he end up his career somewhere else, not Carolina.
I
So
I could see that. I
I
could see it.
my take. I think he does retire early, but not because kind of a little bit of what Melvin said, but I was thinking more in the sense that that team, right? I mean, this is what I meant by I kind of feel like Carolina like wasted Cam Newton because well, not really wasted him, but they did the best they could. But they got this great roster built around him, and I feel like I was watching. Did you watch All or Nothing, Melvin? Did you watch all of it
no,
yet?
I never got
Okay.
a chance to.
Well, I
Uh,
watched I watched it of their season last year, right? And how it unfolded, and it's crazy because there's all these players now that are leaving. Like, isn't Khalil retired if I'm not mistaken, and a bunch of other players are going to be leaving that team, and they have this core, this young core, right? And they're bringing in good players on top, but that defense and everything, it's kind of starting to fade away and everything. And I think that Cam is like, he's going to start feeling the growing pains again, but can Cam last through the growing pains? And I think maybe in the future, with the injuries and everything else, a new quarterback opportunity could step up. Cam probably loses a job somewhere, I think, goes somewhere else, and he's probably like an RG3 type deal where he just kind of eventually fades into obscurity.
Yeah, he's past RG3. RG3's happened
Right.
earlier.
No, what I'm not
I
saying
think he.
comparative. I'm not saying comparative because I know Cam is way better than RG3's career as it was, right, in terms of what he's accomplished. I'm just saying that he kind of like a lot of players in the NFL after they shoot their wad, so to speak, they kind of fade into obscurity.
I think he has what it takes to still be an NFL quarterback. I think they need to get the right coach around him. Let's be like we could transfer this over to like segue into what the Steelers. Roethlisberger, if Roethlisberger did not have Todd Haley, his career would be over. If he did not have that debacle with whatever happened with Haley, why they had to get rid of him, if they didn't change his game, Ben would not be playing football right now. It's because it was the way he was playing, his physicality. He wanted to keep doing the things he was doing earlier and his body could take by getting out of the pocket, going and
What happened to Melvin? He's upside down now.
and extending plays
Oh, there it is.
and doing things like that. Haley changed his offense. He was one of the top before Haley came, people being sacked. Now he's one of the less. He's the top person in the league last year to get the ball out of his hand quicker. They have to adjust his game. You don't need a big-time quarterback to win a Super Bowl. You'd rather have a better defense than a big-time quarterback. We see big-time quarterbacks. Tom Brady is really not a big-time quarterback. It's the system and the people they put around him. You got to make the players play the game, not just one big player. We see it with Aaron Rodgers. He's an excellent quarterback, top tier quarterback of all time, but they're not going to win a lot of games because of the things that's happening. The older he's getting right now, he's going to get hurt, and there's nothing else for them to do besides move on from that situation. So you got to get some coaching in there. Mm-hmm. So in saying that, is there let's go back to a college real quick because you mentioned it. I think I love this part of the game right here where you get somebody that gives up on you, you transfer, and then you see the numbers, what's going to match up. Now we're looking at that two teams that could match up again in that playoff in college. We're going to college real quick with Jalen Hurts going to Oklahoma and the numbers that he put up and the numbers that what's his name? I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Tua. I'll just say Tua.
Yeah.
Tua that replaced him. I mean, he was what, 20 for 23. He had nice passing game. But he had combined for 100 yards rushing and he had 6 TDs. Tua had a nice game too. So I think Jalen Hurts got around a quarterback coach up there in Oklahoma that's a guru with that, and he found the strengths of him that they weren't doing in Alabama, and that's why we're going to see this where those two might go neck and neck for the Heisman.
Well, Alabama had stud running backs, so there was they was trying to get those running backs the ball, and there was expecting Jalen Hurts to be able to make certain throws down the field, and he missed all of those deep throws down the field, and I think the 3 incompletes he had was all deep throws, and it was way off. It was a bad back shoulder fade. It was one that he went across the middle and he threw the ball towards the hash instead of more inside, and got the safety in play when he shouldn't have been. And then it was another one I can't remember. Most of his passes was slants and short screens and short passes that the receivers just took to the house. Mm-hmm. And then he had some read option runs, and then 2 of his touchdowns came off the Reggie Bush push, where it was mostly his team that got him in the end zone. You look at the 508 yards, 6 touchdowns. The numbers are more impressive than what actually happened. He was playing Houston, number 4 versus an unranked team. You don't know not one person on that defense. He said so after the game. we got to play better. And he know. I mean, Houston was in that game too long. So I'm not all that impressed with Jalen Hurts, but I agree with what you're saying that they're utilizing him a whole lot better in Oklahoma than they did in Alabama. But Alabama made the right choice with the better passer that can also run as well. So
So you think in the end, like I know like you don't like to speculate, you like to go at the specific times, but it's kind of fun to do it just to get it on record. do who do you think's going to be who do you think's going to lead their team? Because who did Alabama play again? I'm sorry, I forgot.
I don't know. I don't even know who they played.
They played an unranked unknown team too,
Right.
and they had trouble with them. They didn't
Oh.
they didn't score. There was no score in the first quarter. It was like 14-3 at half or something like that. The score
Right.
it was still in the game. Tua made some. They couldn't do nothing until the running backs that were suspended, like you said, Alabama's running game came in the game. They were suspended for a quarter by the team for whatever. I can't remember exactly what it was. Don't quote me on that. But they were. I know they were suspended, and nothing happened until the running game came in and opened them up. So
That's interesting.
yeah, and Tua made some off flow throws too. I think like Hurts is in a better situation because he has a quarterback coach up there that's going to make sure, okay, let's go look at these tapes. Hey, and mention what you just said. You missed these balls. We got to work on these balls. Let's work on this type of stuff. Let's work on this. Let's work on this. We got a season to do this. And the way college sets up their schedules, they do it where you can do those type things and build as you go. But do you see them? Which one do you think would have success right now if they had to get drafted? Because I think both of them will get drafted. I don't know right now who would be higher, but which one do you think would have the most success transferring into the NFL right now, just right now?
Oh man, that's crazy. And both of y'all know a lot of it depends on which team you fall to. So I mean, that's a tough one.
I'm guessing he's looking at it like Aaron Rodgers versus a Tom Brady. Like he's not talking about the system. He's like Aaron Rodgers. Like he's a good quarterback, but he's like So I'm saying like I'm assuming that's what you mean, Coach. Like who's the better quarterback right now? You put him anywhere on any team.
If you we'll say for the Patriots because they always have the system for it. Which one would probably excel better with the Patriots system?
I think Tua is a better quarterback.
You think? Okay.
I think Tua is a better quarterback, but and I recorded last night, and this is exactly what I said. The type of college quarterback and the type of read option offense that they're running at Oklahoma, I can make this. I can say this: Jalen Hurts is somewhere between Tim Tebow and Cam Newton. He's a lot better than Tebow, but a lot worse than Cam Newton. Cam Newton's a better thrower, passer, and runner. But Jalen Hurts is Tim Tebow plus. He's a better runner than Tim Tebow. He's a better passer than Tim Tebow. So he's somewhere in between Tebow and Cam. You take that for what it's worth.
Okay. I was just gonna say that I think you could put me as the quarterback for the Patriots, and I think I would do great. Because that's just the Patriots, but
They break it down.
Coach, are you saying I would get killed out there? Not with the Patriots.
No.
If I was with the Patriots, I would still win every game. Not every game. Well, even Tom Brady. We would go. Okay, hold on. We would go 10-6. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying we'd go 10-6.
Who's Tyler? You're a Doug Flutie.
What's that?
Who's Tyler? You're a Doug Flutie.
Oh, the Doug Flutie.
Doug Flutie? Yeah, I can do Doug Flutie.
Are you taller than Doug?
No, he's nowhere close to. I'm shorter than Doug Flutie. I think what was Doug Flutie like? 5'10"?
He was 5'8".
5'8". Oh well, I'm just as tall as Doug Flutie. I'm 5'8".
Okay.
Yeah, you might have trouble, Doug. Even with you might have trouble.
Well, we're gonna see. That brings up a good question. We're going to see what the guy down in Arizona, what Tyler, he was on the sidelines versus Oklahoma, the Oklahoma game with Hurts over there helping coach him up.
Yeah.
What Kyler? What do we think? Is Kyler okay?
First of all, he might be a quarterback because that head's got to have two brains in it. That dude look like a freaking alien man.
He does have a big ass noggin.
He's got two brains in there, man. But yeah, he's on the short side, man. I do think you know how Mahomes has all these different throwing motions because he's a baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the same way Russell Wilson does. Kind of the same way Rich Gannon had back in the day. Kurt Warner as well. I love quarterbacks that they got different throwing motions. Sometimes it's necessary when you're throwing screens and you're trying to fit passes. So I like the fact that he has that aspect going for him. So I think that makes him unique. I think he has a rocket arm, and I think he's mobile. So I think he could have some success.
Yeah.
Because I thought Deshaun Watson was gonna have some issues, but
Yeah,
you know,
and he came out there and he's playing lights out for the Texans. I was gonna say that this is just my take on the Kyler Murray thing. Do you think it's gonna be like this new kind of fad where we're drafting like baseball players that like people with I would maybe not a fad, but like drafting these guys who can play in the MLB like a trend? Yeah, I was also gonna say this too. Kyler Murray in preseason. I'm just saying for the record, struggled against the Raiders' second string defense. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna leave that there. Take it for what it's worth in preseason. That's all I'm saying. So I'm just throwing it out there. But again,
we'll let you get to your Raiders real quick, but let me answer that question because that's true. I think it is going to be the new, but it's always been like that. But they never emphasized it a lot. Where you had Russell Wilson, John Elway. John Elway created his own situation because he could play baseball. Mostly all quarterbacks played some kind of baseball. I think Patrick Mahomes, because he grew up so much around baseball, was actually at baseball games, and they showed him some real major league tricks, how to manipulate the ball. And he was probably had a football around in there, and he was just constantly doing that stuff, being around the stadium all the time. And his dad probably noticed it, and that's how they molded his game to get to that level of doing things. So he broke out of the traditional mold. And Andy Reid, being the smart man that he is, even though he doesn't win a Super Bowl, but he's an excellent coach on game planning, on doing things. He didn't try to correct it. He just said, go out there and play that. Most most coaches that get stuck in that old way would have tried to change the way he played the game. So I think it's going to be a trend that they're going to start letting quarterbacks that played baseball, let them do that. Because what Mahomes is doing is when he's throwing the ball without looking, he's turning a double play. That's what he's doing. He's turning a double play when he throws the ball like that. So he's got the target. And when you backhand a ball and you got to just turn across your body and throw it back, because I played a lot of baseball. You're looking for your eye to not even. It barely sees the turn double play from the third side going back. You're taught to throw the ball as soon as you see a flash in your eye. As soon as your man in your eye, you don't see your whole man. You just see, as soon as that flash hits, that ball's aimed at that part. So he's excellent.
It would have been nice for Cole to piggyback off of that because he's a quarterback that played a year at Houston, but I think his best sport was baseball. Man, he's a phenomenal baseball player too. So it would have been nice to have him on for that. But yeah, you're right, man. The way they're slinging the ball, man, I think I don't know if it's going to be a trend, but I think it should be. They should be looking for quarterbacks that have those unique throwing motions, depending on the situation. Like I said, Rich Gannon and Kurt Warner, they was very successful with the way they threw the ball, and they had those different throwing motions. So I agree 100%.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to really top on. Like, unless anybody has anything else, like I would say, like, I'm just I'm just looking at my Steelers. This is an interesting fact. I'm gonna say one more thing, and then you guys, whatever you guys want to say, is on the Steelers roster. I missed a couple picks that I wanted to stay on there, which was Marcus Allen, and I think that was more of my being a Penn State fan that I seen him play so much that I probably fell in love with him that I was missing the things that the coaches added him to the practice squad and the quarterback, the Devlin Hodges, that I was so vocal about. They didn't add him to the practice squad, and and but there was one thing that I noticed that on the Steelers that I got this pinpointed down. Have 30% of their roster is undrafted players that they signed up. Nobody's ever reached that mark that I've seen in many times. So they have 16 unsigned players on their 53 roster right now, or undrafted players from their 53-man roster right now, which just goes to show that I like to always tell my kids, you know what I mean? Like those type of things right there, people get overlooked. The scouts don't always know what they're talking about coming from small schools. You just got to take every opportunity that you get and go out there and bust your ass and show them what you're made of and show them that you're coachable and teachable and you can get your shot. So at that level, especially in that organization like the Steelers, you have to have those tangibles or you would not do that. And I just think that these kids, that 16 kids that went undrafted that made the legendary Pittsburgh Steelers team, what they're known for, toughness and doing what's right and being plug-and-play system. You got to be some good kids that remain humble and remain coachable. So I just want to give a few of them a shout out. I can't name them all right now, but I'll just give them a shout out. They know who they are when they see that stat.
Nice.
Well, I was just gonna say, just to tag on to anything the wrap up preseason, I'm excited for the end of Hard Knocks for the Oakland Raiders, and I know maybe none of you guys have watched it. And just going through the ups and downs, whether it was the Antonio Brown controversy or everything else that was going on in camp. I'm sad because there was one wide receiver, the Keelan Doss, that they've been following pretty much all season of Hard Knocks, and he's gone. And I think he's off on the practice squad of the Bills. I want to say the Bills. I don't think that's right. I was thinking Miami. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking he was going to go to Miami because he played great. He was exceptionally good this preseason. I mean, like he ranked PFF Pro Football Focus's like highest grade. I thought maybe because of the lack that they kind of got at the talent position, I'd say in Miami, that maybe he'd get a shot. But I don't know because of the fire sale they just had with Kenny Stills and whatnot.
Let me change places and ask you a question. Since both of y'all, got y'all teams got common interest with this number 84 guy.
Here we
Do
go.
y'all think that the football helmet thing was a hoax? Because this is my what I think. A lot of these players like AB and all these other players who pride themselves on staying in shape, even in the off season. Who has work ethic that's unmatched. T.O., these type, Jerry Rice, these type of dudes, right? They're getting tired of the preseason, right? Do you think that he drew this helmet thing out just because he wanted to miss OTAs in preseason and he'll be ready for week one?
Okay, I'll start with this one. So I don't think that AB made it up to stay out of preseason and everything. I don't know. I want to say the reasoning for it is genuinely because he just wanted to wear his helmet, and he's pretty much like, not like he's gonna end his career or anything, but he's pretty much 1 foot out the door. He's 31 and everything. He was trying to just like keep the helmet for another year and take that grace period. And I mean, and there was a lot of things too. I mean, because to be honest with you, John, if you watch Hard Knocks, he didn't really want AB. I mean, he wanted AB on the field to catch the deep balls and all that stuff, but also like he very much understood what was going on with the feet. And he was like, and that's why like he almost really wasn't too concerned with like what was going on because he was like, well, AB's got to heal up anyway, so he can't really be working too hard out here. I was like, so what? He's gonna go and do this controversy, get his helmet looked out. That's fine. And I remember the third episode of Hard Knocks that he was having the conversation with AB, and and like basically there was like this kind of media circus that everybody was making a big deal about it, and he was like, hey man, he's like, we support you here, like you're like family to us now, once a Raider always a Raider, and basically was like, so don't worry about it, get your stuff straightened out and just be ready for whatever, your feet are healed up and ready to go. That's pretty
He's
much
not
all he
gonna
said.
miss no time for that helmet. I can tell you that though.
What's
If
that?
he missed time, it's because of the feet. He's not gonna miss time for that helmet. I guarantee you.
Oh no, no,
No,
no,
no doubt.
agreed.
No.
And that's what I'm saying is like, yeah, he can and I think that's the understanding. Now Mayock, who is the GM, he seems like he's kind of had it a little bit because he said he's either all in or he's all out at this point. And I don't know if maybe there was a conversation or maybe Mayock feels slighted because of it. But John was kind of on a different page where he was kind of saying, well, AB is a great player and he's just kind of hurt right now, and like it's okay. We just let him get back to full health because he was still working and
Right.
trying to run. And even in practices in it, you would see, and I'm trying to remember distinctly in the second episode of Hard Knocks, he was telling AB to slow down and stop, you know what I mean? Because he was running and like doing all stuff. You're gonna hurt your feet more. He's like, just it was kind of weird that one thing I did see in that Hard Knocks is just how much they emphasize the safety and like the well-being of their players. Like they really want them to stay healthy. Like they're
Yeah.
not like pushing too hard.
Yeah, you
Which
got
is
to.
good.
That's the money ball. But what I'm saying, like about that whole situation is, um, to me, he genuinely it had nothing to do with camp. Nobody questions his hard work. It was questioned about what he did last year about walking off. I believe that's totally different. But that dude's gonna be at. I actually went to a couple camps early in the time and watched the lives the last couple of years. He's always in camp busting his ass. He's always trying to get on the field, even when the coaches are saying take a rest. He still wants to go out there and work. I don't think that changed since last year and the attitude issues. I think those always been there. I think what it was you look at certain things like there was multiple people, even Tom Brady was on the list that wanted to keep his helmet too. He just wasn't vocal about it because people get if you're a football player, I had it. I played with I wasn't an NFL player or nothing, but I played in high school and on that level, I always wanted my helmet. I just felt like that was my like I'm not going to have a good game. I think he really believes that helmet without it being the same helmet that it's not going to feel the same. It's going to bring him out of like certain catches. That's why he fought so hard with it. Now, as far as he went with it, that was just AB being an ass is saying, I'm never going to play football again. We know that's stupid, but I guarantee you the things that AB couldn't do as far as getting on there with the timing, they're going to find a way to easily get him in there. It's going to cost them some stats right away with the timing. I think they're going to miss a couple of balls because of the timing and not being able to do that a lot. But it's not going to be too far off. I just truly believe that it was more of that he just wanted to keep that helmet that bad that he didn't want to transfer it over. And that's another thing, too, that I say about those helmets that I think the NFL should have done. And I think you mentioned this on one of our episodes, Dev, is like just have him sign a waiver because in every sport, even hockey, which is just as violent, everything baseball, everything when they change a rule and change something gets grandfathered in. So I know the NFL was saying we gotta do extra on these concussion protocols and change the helmets as we have to because we don't want to keep paying out money. But I think it would have been easy for them to just say, hey, you want to keep that helmet? Sign off on this and let's
Sign a
move
waiver
on.
that your health issues or blah 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 and this and that, and basically that any serious injury that may come to you after use of this waiver, blah blah, we're not responsible for. You accepted that using the helmet. One last thing I wanted to say about that controversy is I feel like the media really blew it out of proportion to me, because when I think about it, I think they were looking for the story of AB is, because the falling out in Pittsburgh. And people were talking about all offseason about the falling out in Pittsburgh with him. And then, you turn on the news around here. Granted, we're from Pennsylvania, but the news, everybody's talking about the fallout of AB, and it's like feed. It's kind of like Donald Trump, but like in NFL sense, because AB is kind of like, I don't think a lot of people. A lot of people like AB. But I think there's a lot of people, too, around here that don't like AB because of the antics and things that surrounded him and his leaving, his departure from Pittsburgh. So I think it was like a
Yeah.
story, basically. Trying to make something out of nothing.
Yeah, I guess you can say that, but what's not to like about him, man? I like the dude, man. I mean, he's a baller.
No,
He's a
I do
baller,
too.
man.
But like I said, I think there's people that just try to like they just don't want to like him. I mean, Coach was joking around because he was telling me that people in the chats of the Steelers pages he's in are still talking shit about Le'Veon and AB, and it's like they're not even there anymore. They're
Right.
gone. Like, why even bother? Like, worry about your team and talk about that. Because I remember Coach was saying like he was so on the what was it, Devlin and all them.
Yeah,
He
to
was
me, it's like to me, I wouldn't want an AB. Like me as a coach, knowing the players, I wouldn't want an AB because it would cause what it caused last year. I would quickly nip an AB. I love him as a baller, as a playmaker, but I wouldn't want him on my team. I would rather have 11 like Steve Smiths or 53 Steve Smiths that don't have that issue and still make plays than an AB. You know what I mean? 53A. Give me Steve Smith over AB any day.
yeah.
Yeah, but even then, you know, Carolina gave up on Steve Smith, and they felt like he was a problem for Cam Newton in the locker room. You know, so Steve Smith is very vocal. He was kind of like the emotional leader of the locker room of the team. And as good as he was, that became an issue when they was trying to develop Cam Newton. So it's kind of weird how you're saying that you have AB or you have Steve Smith over AB, but I think a lot of people view him the same. Depending on what type of situation they got as a quarterback and as a locker room. I think when
I
Cam
don't know.
came,
I just think Steve Smith would never walk out of a game, never not show up for a
Into a
game, no
game.
matter what
Yeah.
was going on. I think he's an emotional leader. Antonio Brown's not an emotional leader. He's an emotional distraction. I see it as like he wasn't in there pumping up the team. Steve Smith pumps up the team. I don't think he would
right?
never walk out, never say I'm not showing up for a game that like that. I don't never see that happen.
No. You're right. You're right about that. But I'm saying even though you're putting both their names on the table and saying one is more tolerable than the other one,
Mm-hmm.
somehow a GM in Carolina found Steve Smith to be a issue as well in the locker room just
Yeah,
by
they
being a vocal leader.
they did the math. They did the math and was like, Cam Newton's our future. Steve Smith's getting older. Let's get something to bring around Steve Smith and let's just end it all. I think that's what they should have stepped in and did with Brown and Ben before it got to that point. But it was both of them. It wasn't just. I'm not going to just blame this on Antonio. It was Ben Roethlisberger too. But they're like Roethlisberger. You know how that goes. Roethlisberger's going to be here. We know for a fact that we're going to have to sign this. We don't have no replacement, but a wide receiver is more easy to replace in like a 3-year window. We're saying that like Roethlisberger probably has is a 3-year good high level than
Play window.
AB's than AB's 3-year window.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what happened with that. Me personally as a coach, I know watching the things that he does and his reactions to thing and how he talks and how he doesn't be a leader like in with the receivers and like pretty much just he's one of those guys that's going to show you he can work hard and he'll ball, but he's not really a team player. He's not like team like helping and doing whatever it takes, maybe taking like, all right, the balls ain't coming to me today, and showing that love and respect to the person that the ball's coming. I can just see certain things that for me as a coach for years that I would be like, yeah, I don't want none. The first chance we got, if I was an NFL coach and and it was that situation, first chance we get, let's get him out of here. I'll just be honest.
Well, I was just gonna say this just because I just want to add to it. My one of the things I do like about the Raiders, and this is like one of the things I kind of picked up, is they're just a ragtag group, a ragtag team. Like every time I've ever like think about them, I always just think of like this team of like almost outcasts, the people of the NFL that pretty much I wouldn't say washed up, but the people that come in and like it's like maybe they don't have the best reputation and maybe they don't have this and maybe they don't have that, but they all come together and try and make something happen. Now, granted, for a successful football program, things like that really can't exist I would say. But I think it's interesting whenever you have, I think, a cavalcade of like all these different groups of players that come together to make things happen. Like, I mean, AB, Vontez Burfict came to the team. Like, they're not shy about taking the guy who's like, oh, he's got some controversy around him, but we'll bring him back. Oh, Richie Incognito. They brought Richie Incognito, Vontez Burfict, and Antonio Brown on the same roster, which all of them have,
Right.
questionable, stuff around them. But they all brought him in.
Yeah.
And as I've understood from what I've heard and like the sources, the pages, the people talking, like all those guys get along famously. Like Richie Incognito's like a whole new person. Vontez Burfict and AB are like cool with each other. No beef from the Steelers and all that crazy stuff that happened there. Vontez Burfict is kind of mellowed out, I guess. He's not as rude or whatever, but I mean, I kind of want Vontez Burfict to be an animal. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of want him to be like a missile. And AB's there. I mean, and the stuff's happening there, but I don't know. I think they can still be a good football team regardless of the controversy that they have around them. And like I said, that's just one of the reasons why I like them. And that's probably the last thing I'm gonna say because you know what I mean.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see it, man. But when you first started your little monologue, when you said the thing that you like about the Raiders, I thought you were going to say all the losing. Because
bro.
That's what I like.
That's the part of being ragtag is you're not gonna. That's the problem of being a ragtag group, man. You're not gonna win a lot of games, but you know something. It's just so much sweeter if they do win. When we have that ragtag group and they do win games. I don't know.
Right.
Like that to me, it's like the underdog story, but also like if you ever seen the movie like The Replacements or whatever, like most football movies, what makes the good ones like we got Jim and we have Joker and like they all have like their own little personality and whatever, and they have to like fight their own little battles and
hopefully the Raiders bring some attitude back to the NFL. You remember the Baltimore Steelers games we used to look forward to of an all defensive battle, a lot of hard hitting, a lot of trash talking. I don't think the Steelers and the Ravens are known for that no more. Hopefully the Raiders can bring that back.
Yeah, right. I think they can. I think I don't know. I mean, I think the Steelers. I mean, the Steelers right now have like a terrific pass rush. I mean, but I mean like that hard hitting. I mean, what they played last year and it was a good game. The Raiders and Steelers did. It was physical. It was probably the best game the Raiders played.
I don't watch them no more. I don't watch Ravens Steelers no more. It ain't the same.
I said the Raiders. The Raiders because the Raiders.
Because
the Raiders
won. Did you say the Ravens?
I was saying Ravens.
Oh, okay.
I was saying Ravens.
Because I know the Raiders and Steelers game is it's been like an iconic game of the NFL, and it's a staple, I would say, because of the history they have playing each other, and they, like I said, like they always play a good game. Like every time Raiders and Steelers games on, pretty much most times I've ever watched one, it's a good game throughout the whole thing.
Well, this is the bottom line to that. The Steelers get caught in the same thing they do with any team that's trash. Is they play down to them.
Man,
that never plays for anything.
They're trash when they lose to the. Is that team trash when they lose to them?
Let's be real about that.
Are they trash when you lose to them though? You know what? Listen, because you can have that. You can tell me my Raiders squad went 4-12 last season. 3-13, and I will be okay with that. But you know what? I won't be okay with you trash talking my team when they took an L last year. So from my team. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I will stand for that. You can tell me my team was doo-doo. I don't care. But you can't talk that smack when you lost. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Until we play again and the Steelers beat us, then you can talk that smack about your team being better. But until then, you can't.
So you got bragging rights for at least a whole year.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, I don't think we probably won't play for another 3 years unless we meet in the playoffs or something. The Raiders, I don't think we'll play you guys again.
That's not gonna happen. Both of y'all will not be in the playoffs.
No, it's gonna be Steelers.
That's okay. There's Melvin's bold prediction. The Raiders nor Steelers will be in the playoffs this year.
Well, hold on.
No. Both of y'all won't be. Maybe one of y'all will, but not both.
You said both of us will be.
Both of us
will not be.
Not be. Oh, okay, that's what I thought you said. Yeah, that's the bold prediction I said. Is he decided it won't be.
It'll be the Steelers in the playoffs, as usual. Mel, just let me ask you this question. I know you said before you don't have a favorite team. I get the part of saying favorite players, but why is that? Like, why didn't you attract, like all your years growing up saying, Like I remember why I'm a Steelers fan. You know what I mean? Like because it was my area. That's who was on. I was young. I was coming off of the 4 year Super Bowl run where they were changing coaching, and I just always watched it. It was easy for us to go down and see the players, and they would come down to the college at camp. That's why I became a Steelers fan. That never like no team has been like that's my squad. Your whole
My first team was the Buffalo Bills. So I went through all of those four Super Bowls that they lost. I went through all of that tragedy,
oh
right? And then when we got the expansion team in Carolina, I slowly started to move toward the home team.
okay.
And my first year in the Navy, 2001, I seen the opening game for the Carolina Panthers, and I seen Steve Smith run a kick return. But his first time touching the ball, he ran it back.
Mhm.
And I want to say we lost that game. We had a horrible quarterback, but we played with so much heart. And 2001, the Panthers became my team. Um, right around 2005, I was so emotionally attached to the Panthers that I would get migraines when they lost. So I really had to emotionally detach myself
Oh
from liking
my.
a team. I'm dead serious. So this is my
Wow,
philosophy.
that's crazy.
This is my philosophy. Why would um, because why you like your teams is everybody has a different reason why they like it, but pretty much you like the way they play, you like their attitude, you fall in love with that. But why be loyal to something that's not loyal to you, right? Like if I like a team because of their winning ways and you're not winning anymore, I don't have an allegiance to. I have to like you,
Mm-hmm.
right? You get what I'm saying? So
Mm.
my whole philosophy is I will show
Ooh.
loyalty to who shows loyalty to me. So if I was a Knicks fan and you purposely sabotage your team for whatever reason, why does a fan have to be loyal to a franchise that's not trying to be loyal to its fans? They're not trying to win. They're not trying to do X, Y, Z. They keep like the Charlotte Hornets. They can't keep a superstar, they won't pay them. So if you're not attaching yourself to winning and practicing winning ways, how can you want a fan to actually stay there? So that's when I just totally took myself away from any allegiance to any team, and it feels free. I don't get headaches anymore. I don't feel up or down when they win, but I do like certain players, because if the player is playing the way I like football to be played, I can like their player, so I can root for anybody, and
Yeah.
that feels free to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a
I
football.
was just gonna make the joke say you're a bandwagon, but um, yeah.
I'm a football fan before I'm a fan and just being a coach. I always say this: I'm a football fan before I'm a Steeler fan. So I call all the bullshit. And so, but I understand if it was affecting my health, I'd probably be the same way too. So
Yeah. I just wanted to share, because we gotta kind of wrap this up because we're 47 minutes here, and I'm feeling a little tired, a little blue, but I did want to share just because you all shared your story, just with Melvin. I wanted to share my story how I became a Raiders fan. So first off, you have to understand that we're in a yellow state, Melvin. We're in a state of
Okay.
yellow and green. There's
All
the
right.
Eagles to the south, and or no, the Eagles to the east, and then there's the Steelers to the west. And then there's me, and I'm a Raiders fan, right? How does some guy in Pennsylvania like Oakland? So my dad liked Oakland, and that's pretty much the main reason why. But I'll tell you the story of how I became a Raiders fan. It was the day that we had a party. I was like probably like 8 years old, something like that. And it was like a Steelers versus Raiders party. My dad invited my uncle over, Uncle Derek. He's the biggest Steelers fan you'll meet. He has like a whole basement of like memorabilia, and he like pays to go to the players and they sign his stuff. And he has a bar that's Steelers themed in his basement. And me and my dad are Raiders fans, and I can't remember the game that they played. I can't even remember who was even playing at that time. But they played a game, and my Uncle Derek got so mad when the Raiders beat them that like he like almost cried. A grown man almost cried because they
it
beat him.
happens.
And my dad, because he's the person, he just kept rubbing it in, and I couldn't.
Right.
It
Right.
was the most, and like my dad was like egging me on like during the game to like come on, like, and then I got so into it, just having fun. And basically, we just like broke my uncle down into pieces, and then he left, and he got so mad that
Yeah.
he took his kids, like my cousins and left, and was like,
Yeah.
and it was just I don't know, like, and like after they left, I just remember me and my dad just chuckling so hard about it because we were just like, what is this? And ever since then, I've kind of been a Raiders fan, so it was
Yeah.
interesting.
See, situations like that, Lauren and Dev, is why I emotionally detach, man. Like I have no control over how a franchise run their franchise, and to be emotionally attached to that to the point where you have to be loyal to it, it's kind of weird for me. I just can't say I have to like this team and I have to ride with it through all the good and the bad. I'm not married to them. I didn't sign no contract with them or none of that stuff. I seen people give up on their marriage faster than they give up on their football team.
That's
That's
not wrong.
fact.
Yeah, all I was
That's
gonna say
fact.
is
Going down
me.
with the
I feel
ship.
the same way. That I don't. It's not that I give up. Like I know I can pick any other team, but they're just like my team. Like it's just the horse you just feel like you want to bet on. Like I like because I do that once. If my team doesn't make playoffs, I pick a team that I'm riding with. Last year for me in playoffs, it was the Saints. I was like, go Saints. You know.
Right.
What's that?
But hey, coach. So y'all both, Dev, you played semi-pro before?
Yeah, well, not really because we never got to that level. I mean, I was there. I practiced in semi-pro. Does that count?
Oh, okay.
I've
So
conditioned.
yeah,
I've
it counts.
conditioned.
So
I
so you
conditioned.
played football. Both of y'all played football, and Lauren, you coach football, right? So
Hmm.
you have a certain personality and a certain style that you like to put on your team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's safe to say that you have a personality with your coaching style. Now, when I'm liking a franchise or I'm liking a university or something like that, it matches my personality and my play style for some reason. What happens when a team that you're a diehard fan of does not portray anything that you like about football anymore? Like everything is just totally just off. They're not
I
playing. You know what I'm saying?
I give you one example. It wasn't because they was playing. It was because the whole system fell apart. It broke my heart. It broke my heart what was going on. I kind of didn't watch it for a while. It was in college. I'm a Penn State fan, so when that whole thing happened with that guy up there, what was going on, and they were saying that whole school nobody knew anything. What was his name again? I Yeah, I threw his name out of my head. I can't stand that dude. Like that was going on all that time on that campus. The U.S. Government came, or the Pennsylvania governor, or whatever his name was, I forget his name, District of Justice, whatever, came down there on multiple times and came back and said he found nothing, nothing's bad. This was happening on the campus. Coach Paterno went and told them that happened, and he washed his hands of it, and they still allowed it to go on. It broke my heart because I had a lot of pride since I was a young kid watching that program, been up to the stadium a lot, and I've been around coaches that I know would never do and never did anything or accused of just how good coaches are and how that guy was taking advantage and how Penn State allowed that to happen. I mean, I was heartbroken. I didn't watch him. It really tested where I was close to walking away from it, and it wasn't because of none of the playing or anything. It was just the more of the, like you said, the organization wasn't handling business and protecting kids and doing the things that I think needs to be done, especially in the youth level, which this guy was preying on, and it was
Yeah,
happening on their campus. So it just broke my heart, man. I was ready to
I
walk
got you.
away from them until they cleared house, cleaned everybody out of there, and started to rebuild again. And then I came back to it.
Right, and I think the Knicks fans, even though it's not as serious as Penn State, I think the Knicks fans feel the same way about Bob Dolan or whatever
Oh
his
yeah,
name is. You know what I
he's
mean? So they
yeah,
like until Dolan is gone, I just can't support the squad. So I mean, like
yeah.
that's how
That's
I
my
am.
squad. That's my
Yeah,
squad too. My
yeah,
squad. I haven't watched the Knicks game. I went to New York a couple of times. Let me tell you one story before we get out of here, Deb. This is the craziest. You got to forgive me. I was young. It was around when Jordan was playing the Knicks and he kept eliminating us in the playoffs. We had those great teams with Oakley, Ewing, and Barling. And Ewing, this is how bad of a fan I was and how deep I was into it. And then when I learned that I had to adjust some things, not only in my life, but how much I supported teams. I was like 19. I was running wild in my streets. I was in my apartment. Nobody was there except me, and I was drinking a couple 40, smoking a little weed. I actually, that last time before, I think it was what, 95, when Jordan came in the Garden, we were banging the Bulls and we had a shot to get out of this playoff series. Jordan
Yeah.
came in there and put up and just killed us in the fourth quarter. I actually shot my TV. This is a true story.
Fuck.
This is how bad it was. This is how out of control I was.
A TV.
It's true story, bro. It
You
is.
got lucky because you know how strict y'all gun laws are up there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it was
crazy.
bad.
That's crazy. I think right there, can we end it on the fact that Coach shot a TV?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
if the police see this, they will try to go back. They will cancel you from way back then.
Yeah, they could try. They could try. Statues is that. I lost.
right.
I actually had my girlfriend move out. She wasn't there, but she moved out for like months. The mother of my children moved out and stayed away from me for months because of that. And I had to change my life all over. I had to change my life
She's
because
probably
of that.
like, Jesus, he's gonna whip out a gun during a game. I couldn't see
Right.
what other mildly inconvenient thing could he possibly whip out a gun for? That's probably what was crossing her
Right.
mind.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
never get it though. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, if I was that into the sports, I guess maybe I'd shoot a TV. I'm not sure.
All right, Dave. I'll let you go ahead and close it out, but hey, y'all need to come and do the man down sometime this week.
Yeah. Like I
Okay.
said,
Yeah, definitely. Figure out some times and get with Dev and we'll work it out.
yeah, like I said,
All right, bro.
like I said, we'll find a time and we all sit down and we can come on the show and talk that ish. But as always, stay beautiful. Take care of yourselves. Check out Melvin's podcast, Man Down Podcast. We out of here. Bye. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks, Melv.
Yep.